I remember one time a boy flirted with me at camp, and I like was so scared because like he was kind of ugly, but I also needed to recognize like my own place in this, and like I wasn't really bringing like the glitz and the glam. And then of course when he approaches me, he's probably like, that's a feasible prospect. Meanwhile, I'm like, excuse me, like if you're not a model for J. Crew, you have to leave me alone.
Wait, it's not that deep.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Not That Deep. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you guys coming back and listening. And I love still telling people that I'm doing a podcast because it's fun and it really makes me so happy. So I hope it's giving you a familiar happiness like it's giving me. I hope it's not making you happier than it's making me, because then that feels like capitalism. And I don't actually know what capitalism means, but I feel like that's kind of the gist. And I hope everyone's having a great week so far. I know I missed last week. I think what's so interesting, I guess is a good word, is last week I had a pretty bad like mental health week last week. And by pretty bad, I'm pretty fortunate. It's not awful. It's just something that I'm heavily aware of, and I kind of give myself what I need, whether it's like staying in at night or not doing certain things. But it also can kind of push me down a bit of a rabbit hole, because then if I'm not doing things, that equates to not doing things that I like to do or that I love to do, like going to an open mic or recording my podcast or seeing people that make me happy, because I just don't feel like it. And it's kind of pretty parallel to when I have a big weekend or bender of drinking. And like, this isn't rocket science, right? When you get older, you can't really handle your alcohol as much as you used to. Maybe you can handle it the night of, but the next day it hits you a lot more than it ever had. And I never really thought that that would happen to me, because I think I'm invincible. So this has been a humbling year, but I think what I've realized is alcohol does affect me in a way that I don't like it. Even when I'm out, I like the sociability of drinking, but what I notice more and more often is I'm having the same amount of fun if I'm drinking a club soda as I am if I'm drinking a tequila soda. Like, I'm not doing one or the other for the taste. It's more so just like sipping on something, holding something. Like, take a second and realize or picture yourself like at a party, whether you're with your friends or whether you're with coworkers. You don't want to be the only one without a drink. Or when you get to a bar, it's, what shots are we taking? Do you want a drink? What can I get you? Let's do a round of tequila shots. Like, it's very social. It's very fun. And you almost don't want to be the one to miss out on that. And that's not a reason to keep drinking. Like, you're not retaining friends because you're a drinker. But what I am saying is, like, if you can have the same fun that you're having out without a drink, or maybe with two drinks, then that might be the move for you. And I am talking to myself right now, because I think that is something that I've struggled with, of like, I'm not like chugging myself to sleep by any means, but I think I do take it a step too far, just because like I'm in the environment. It's fun. Like, we were down the shore at the Jersey Shore. Like, it was lit. And being drunk is fun. My own sister was like, who can't drink for health reasons. She was like, Dana, isn't it so fun to just lose your inhibition? Hell yeah, it is. Like, I love losing my inhibition. But I think that when there's such like harsh effects the day after, it makes it not as fun, knowing that what you're doing is going to lead to that. And so I had a big bender like 2 weekends ago. It was super fun. My friends and I went down to the Jersey Shore, and drinks were flowing. Drinks were absolutely flowing. And it didn't really hit me until like Wednesday of last week, which is typically when I would record the podcast, of like, I don't feel like myself. And I felt like I was so slowed down, and I felt like I couldn't have the motivation that I usually would. Or why don't I feel inclined to go record? Why do I just want to go home and like sit? And there's nothing wrong with going home and sitting, but for me, I know that that's not what fills my cup up. So for other people, after a long day of work, going home and sitting fills their cup up. Makes them happy, or maybe they go to a workout, or maybe they go get a glass of wine. All those things also make me really happy. But like how I know I'm feeling good is if I want to do comedy, write, or go do a podcast. And so I wasn't feeling like that last week. And I don't really push myself when I'm in that position because I know that I need to listen to my body, and I was actually begging for rest. And then, so yeah, I just, if if your number one question last week was where's the podcast, I just served it to you on a silver platter. That was the answer. And I'm open about it. And when I'm talking to my friends, I was at my friend's Carly's bridal shower on Saturday. People were like, "Oh, how are you?" And I was like, honestly, like I had such a bad mental health week. And I feel like it almost opens the conversation for other people to be like, wait, I was feeling really anxious the other day and I don't know why. Okay, let's talk about it. When I ask someone how they are and they say good, and I know they're not good, like I almost feel bad for them. But also I feel bad for other people when they ask me how I am and I give them like the full rundown of how I'm actually feeling. They're like, you could have just said good. You could have just said, we didn't need the whole spiel. But I don't know. I think it's good to open up dialogue and kind of give the whole spiel. And so I'm really happy to be doing the podcast right now. And I also think alcohol's funny because I don't know. I think about parents and they're like, oh, I can't drink like I used to back in the day. And I'm like, is this me right now at 26? Like, can I not drink like the way I was at 23? Like, what's happening in my body that I cannot recover the way I used to? Like, I'm drinking more water. I mean, is water not the answer? Because I pee so much. Maybe that's the problem. But like, I remember in college, like, I mean, we didn't really binge drink in high school. We drank a bit. Like I would have 3 beers and be like, man, I'm fucked up. Baby, you don't know what fucked up is. Come college, like specifically senior year, once we could actually go out to the bars, like we would get drunk as skunks and then wake up and feel fine. But almost in college, being hungover was like a social aspect of college. Being hungover, you wake up, you're like, I'm hungover. And then your friend with a car, if they had one, would like drive you to the shitty bagel place because there's no good bagels in Virginia, and that's a fact. And they drive you to the bagel place, and then you like see everyone else, and you're like, last night I let the party get the best of me. And then you like see the guy who totally ignored you on the dance floor for the girl in the better sorority. And then you see the girl in the better sorority like eating a bagel like scooped out, and you're like, fuck, I'm never gonna look like her. And your friend's like maybe working at like Au Bon Pain or wherever the hell you're getting your bagel from. And it's just like a social aspect. It's like going, even in high school when you thought you were hungover, you were not hungover, you just were like a little tired. And you'd go to the bagel place and be like, what's up? You're like, last night was crazy. Like I purposely wouldn't take my makeup off so that I looked more like a raccoon. And it was just fun. Like it was a fun thing. And being hungover now is like, I have so much fun with my friends, whether I'm drinking, whether I'm not, whether I'm losing my inhibition, whether I'm just like riding a high or taking other substances. And I think it's good to recognize that. And I don't need to go 0 or 100, but like I was talking to my therapist and she was like, let's think about times when you've come in here on Mondays and not felt good. And I'm like, well, it's basically been pretty frequent this summer. And she was like, and you started drinking again in May? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay, well, there might be a relationship. And I'm like, damn, you're good. No wonder I'm paying you the big bucks. So I just think to be aware of that's important for me. But I really don't want to talk so much about like drinking because it's to each his own. And like, sorry, I'm like a little bitch and I can't handle it. But I think I like not being slowed down by factors that I can control. And so taking it easy is kind of like in my future. Like if I was a future teller, I'd be like, maybe chill. But something that I wanted to talk about today came to me, and today during work, there's a girl who just started, and she came up to me and she was like, Dana, I had to tell you this. And I was like, oh my God, like, do you know someone, like an agent? Like, do you know someone who's gonna like get me out of this corporate hell? She's like, no. Because I actually did say that out loud. she's she's like, no, I actually am going to my friend's parents' sleepaway camp that they own for Labor Day weekend. I'm going to stay over at the sleepaway camp. And I'm like, ... Why are you telling me this? She was like, because I feel like you're Jewish and I feel like you would appreciate that. And I was like, I cannot explain to you enough how on fucking brand this is and how my heart absolutely skipped a beat when you told me this critical information, and how I'm so green with envy that you're able to not only go to summer camp for a weekend for free, but also that you have a friend whose parents own a sleepaway camp. Because guess what? That is cool for many reasons. The number one reason that's cool is because your kids are probably going to get free, I'll call it tuition, I'll call it what it is, free tuition to said sleepaway camp. And then you're going to be able to buy a Lamborghini like you've always wanted to, instead of spending like $90K on these stupid twats who make memories who aren't going to be able to remember them. She's standing there speechless. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that, but I was so flattered. Not only that she was questioning if I was Jewish. She was like, wait, are you Jewish? My hair could not be more curly today. I'm like, yes, like, yes, I am. Thank you. And then the fact that she's not Jewish also, which was funny. She's from Florida, so she doesn't understand the lure of a Northeastern sleepaway camp experience. So she's only heard rumors about it. She was like, what can I expect? And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I think people look at me, you know, and they're like, she probably had such a good summer camp experience. She probably was the star of theater. She probably was doing sports. She probably was Troy Bolton, but make him a female. Like, what couldn't she do? And the raw truth of that is I had no friends at sleepaway camp besides Mia Miller, who's my one friend who I went to sleepaway camp with and who is still my best friend. I went to camp. My parents sent me to camp. My sister had gone to the sleepaway camp first. It's called Island Lake. No, this is not promo, but if they ever asked me to, I would do it for free. I loved this camp for such a shitty experience that I had. I loved this camp. Basically, I was in 4th grade when they first sent me. And my sister was in 7th grade. So, like, she kind of, like, had her crew. They weren't cool by any means, but, like, you still had a crew. And I thought that was cool of her. And she always has, like, good friends. And so it was my turn to go. And, you know, you look back and you're like, I wonder what I was thinking. I probably wasn't thinking anything. I probably had, like, acorns clacking in my head. Like, I wasn't dissecting the situation. Like, did I get nervous? I have no idea. My mom would probably know. My favorite part about going to camp the first year and every year to follow was getting the supplies. We would go to Harmon, which was like a bed and bath basically, but cheaper. And I would just wreak havoc down these halls. And I would be like, I need wash for my right earlobe. I need it. I know I've never had it before, but I absolutely need it for the 5 weeks away that I'm at sleepaway camp that you're already paying probably $10,000 for. I need at least $5,000 more in merch. I need dope bedding. I need every type of fan that they sell. Like, I need everything that's trendy. And also, if you think about where we were at that time in terms of like being up to standard, this was a Jappy camp, Jewish American princess. And when I was first going, I don't even think I knew what a Jewish American princess was. We were from New Jersey, Westfield. There weren't really Japs there. There just were like Jews that went to our temple, and some were a little bit more obnoxious than the others, but I was never like, you're a Jap. Like, you're a Jap. I know. You're a Jap. I know. It was always just, we were Jewish, whatever. I had no idea there were tiers. I had no idea there was a fucking hierarchy to this system. Like, I thought that we existed and that was that. And going to camp and realizing that Jews are a 7-layer cake. it's unbelievable how many kind we have and how some of them are just awful. And I know every culture probably has like your off breed. Oh my God, these girls were vicious. Like there was the cool camp. There was like the cool bunk. There was like the artsy bunk, I guess. And then there was like the weird as fuck bunk. And it's like, of course, I end up in the weird as fuck bunk. Who's matching people? Who's putting me in this weird bunk? Like, I could have had a better chance of surviving. I could have made friends with the Japs and kind of made them see, like, you don't always need to straighten your hair. Or like, you don't always need the Cartier. Like, you could just be you. Like, I could have taught them that. But instead, I was in a bunk with these literal freaks. And listen, I was a freak. So I was completely put in the correct bunk. They did the right thing. Like, when they were evaluating my bunk, they didn't see me and they were like, man, how did she get in there? Put her in the cool bunk. No, they were like, God, we did a great job. And then they sipped their martinis. Like, me and Mia were in this weird ass bunk and like we belonged there. And I think that's a beautiful thing because I learned at an early age, like, you don't belong with the cool girls. We see it. And like, I don't think I wanted to be like a part of them as much, but I just was like, why are the girls in my bunk so weird? And like, Mia will come on the podcast and attest to this. Like, we were scared of some of them. And like, yes, like there was also the artsy bunk, but I feel like they were like a grade older or a year younger. Like they really separated it by age. And like, oh my God, there was this terrifying girl who, oh my God, like where do I even begin? Mia has to be here, but I'll tell you about one girl. She had these huge eyes and she would wake you up in the middle of the night and pretend like she was in the house of wax and pretend like she was melting. And she was so terrifying. And like, I can still picture her creepy ass eyes. There was one of our counselors who also, we got the weird counselors. It's like, how did we get these weird ass counselors? Did they say like they're a freak, put them in the freak bunk? And then like the normal counselors get the normal bunks? Like, why is this happening? It's like sorority recruitment all over again. One of my counselors cut off her own ponytail and then put it in my other counselor's bed because she like didn't like her. Like, screw a horse's head, just put a literal ponytail. Like, how scary is that? And we thought it was funny. Like, it just, I look back and no, duh, I didn't have friends. Like, I really was left with like the pick of the litter. But like, sleepaway camp to me, like, sure, that was like the living situation. Like, kind of a bummer, but also funny. And I think really personality shaping. Like, me and Mia's relationship really blossomed through sleepaway camp, and I do not think we would be as close today as we were if we did not go to camp. And I'm forever grateful that my mom and my dad spent like 50 grand for 5 years to send me to a sleepaway camp where I only socialized with Mia and then frequently or sometimes other people as well. But like, we would do activities, like we would play tennis and we would do archery and we would do pioneering and we would like do all this stuff. And it was so fun and also just so like good for kids to experience these different activities to really like see what you like. And I really wish that I was into theater because I don't know, I think it would have given me even more of a sense of humor. Like, oh, you're a theater kid. Like, I never had that repertoire. It more was like, oh, like you're the girl who like stays home from canteen and like dances instead of socializing. Me and Mia would go to canteen with like sopping wet hair, get so much candy, and instead of socializing at canteen, which is what everyone does. Like, think about it. You're in like 5th grade, middle school. These are like crucial, pivotal years. Like, you're coming into puberty. You're deciding like, okay, like, do I like boys? Like, what's the deal? And me and Mia like would just go off back to the cabin and like have a dance party. And it was so lame, but also like so funny. But I also feel like I could have met so many more people if we were socializing at canteen instead of like popping our puss. But like, canteen was such, like, I want to open a bar in New York City called Canteen, and it will just be like absolute social scene. people are like flirting. Like I started to hear that people were like drinking at canteen, and I couldn't even fathom like where they would get such a thing. Like that was crazy as hell to me that people were doing that. Or like I remember one time a boy flirted with me. A boy flirted with me at camp, and I like was so scared because like he was kind of ugly, but I also needed to recognize like my own place in this, and like I wasn't really bringing like the glitz and the glam. And then of course when he approaches me, he's probably like, that's a feasible prospect. Meanwhile, I'm like, excuse me, like if you're not a model for J. Crew, you have to leave me alone. Like my ego has not changed at all, or my expectations. But camp was just like, and it was so fun because I was with my sister and like a bunch of her friends, and visiting day was always so much fun. Like our parents would come, and these parents, this is what I mean, like the jappy ass parents were once jappy kids. And like also if you're sitting there wondering like what is a Jewish American princess, like picture like the most obnoxious Jew from Long Island who like cares a lot about status, clothing, cars, jewelry, and like a facade, and like that's what a Jap is. Like I've really never met a Jap that I'm like, you have such a good core, you know? But I also don't know a lot of Japs. So am I pigeonholing myself? Perhaps. But I don't know, like maybe, I don't know. I was going to say maybe I've been considered one at one time. Maybe when I like talk back to my mom. No, not actually. But so on visiting day, you know, us children, whether we're there for 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, we are deprived of life's juiciest gifts. And that would be sushi, bagels, soda, ice cream, candy, cookies, all this shit that we eat at home that like we just don't have access to. My parents wouldn't do this. Oh my God, my parents would bring like, I don't know if I'm remembering this incorrectly. I totally could be. But to my best knowledge, my parents brought like tuna salad and egg salad from like my bagel place. And they would bring it in like a freezer and bring it up. I think they brought sushi one year. Sushi is very extra to bring. Like I think a fifth grader missing sushi so much that their parent needs to bring it from New Jersey to buttfuck Pennsylvania. Like there's a deep rooted problem there that I do not feel like going into. But no, they totally brought me sushi from this place in Nagoya. And like you would write letters back and forth and be like, I need sushi. Like what the fuck? You need a wellness check. You don't need sushi. And like the parents would run. It literally was like the running of the herds, like, or the running of the bulls. Like you would wait for your parents and they'd be like, and go. And then parents would just run so fast with like their million bag of like bagels, schmears, and lox. That's what my parents would bring. Smoked salmon. Like, God forbid I didn't have lox for like 38 days. Kill me. And they'd run. And I remember I would always see my dad's bald head and be like, that's him. Or they'd bring like a cookie cake. And then afterwards, after visiting day, basically you show your parents around, you do activities with them. Maybe you swim in the lake, maybe you do other things. And then you say goodbye to them. And it's always super emotional because you're like, wah, I'm going to miss you. Because like, it is really sad. Like you're away from your parents from such a long time. And then to like distract the kids of how upset they are, then you have like a big water gun fight. And like, it was always so fun. I'd be like, wet t-shirt contest. And then sometimes after visiting day, to even lift the morals even higher, they would break out color war, which is when the camps divided into 2 separate teams. And basically you do all these challenges and activities, and then one team wins, one team loses. And I'll tell you what, if you lose, you probably had the worst summer of your life. I still remember when I lost color war. It's fucked up because they break up the bunks. So let's say there's like 15 girls in a bunk. They put 7 on one team and 8 on the other. And it is so freaking brutal because when you win, it's like you don't want to be a bitch about it. Also, like you did nothing to contribute to the greater whole of winning color war, yet you feel like so victorious. But you have to stay humble, right? And then if you lose, oh my God, I should have been put on Lexapro the first time I lost color war, because it is so heartbreaking and gut wrenching. And like, I think that if you haven't been through something hard, like let's say you're a kid and maybe you haven't had like a death of like a loved one or an animal, I think that your kid should definitely be sent to a rigged camp and lose color war, because I'll tell you what, it's way more painful than anything I've ever experienced still to this day. My parents' divorce, nothing compared to losing a color war, because it's so harsh. And also it's like, wait, this was supposed to be fun and now I'm not having fun. And then you like resent everyone on your team. And then like, I mean, I remember I loved color war one year because I had a crush on a guy who was on my team. The team is full of like 700 people. I was like, it's crazy that we're on the same team. Like, Dana, have you always been delusional? Yes. Like, I still remember his name. I'm not going to say it on here because like, that's just not how I roll. But like, I was like, wow, it's crazy how close we're getting over color war. Never looked at me once. Never even. Just funny ass times. Or like the counselors would get into it, and I don't know if Mia and I were ever split up, but clearly we didn't let it ruin our friendship, which I think is brave and a big novelty and a big testament to our friendship. But yeah, visiting day was fun. Color war was fun. I'll have her on one of these days, and just, I have a lot to talk to her about, but mainly camp, because whether you're Jewish, like I have a lot of non-Jewish friends, not to brag, and they'll be like, Dana, like, did you go to sleepaway camp? Is that like a Jewish thing? Like, they don't understand, but it is a Jewish thing, or it is like a Northeastern thing. Like, a lot of them just went to like sports camp. But like, what about sleepaway camp is Jewish? Is it just like Jews are annoying and want to send their kids off? Like, my coworker's favorite time of the year is when he gets to send his kids off to sleepaway camp. And like, I don't blame him. I'm really going to look forward to that too. I'm sure my parents, like, I remember one year, like, they went to Portugal, and I was like, that's so fucked up. You didn't take me. And they're like, Dana, we're literally sending you to sleepaway camp. Like, I'm sure some kids saw sleepaway camp as a prison, but couldn't be me. Could not be me. It was perfection wrapped up in 5 weeks. And then I'd come back. Oh, this is one last thing, actually. You would like make bracelets and stuff. We were doing friendship bracelets before Taylor Swift, okay? And we would make like bracelets with like string. Like, I had a whole box where I would like even sell them. I tried to raise money for my aunt's charity one time, and I was like selling string bracelets, and I'm like, $8 a pop, who wants them? No bartering. Like, I thought that this was God's greatest gift to me, that I was able to do a rainbow stitch on these silly strings. Like, I would go to Michael's and buy this string as if life depended on it, and then I would hustle. Like, picture that TikTok where it's like, it's about drive, it's about power, we stay hungry, we devour, put in the work, put in the hours, and take what's ours. That was me doing my bracelets, and I would not have had it any other way. But I would come back with bracelets all the way up to my forearm, and then my mom would eventually make me take it off because she was like, you probably have MRSA. And then I would take it off, and it would be like filthy underneath, and I would have the sickest tan line, and I would be like, somebody did summer right, and her name is Dana Joy Siegelstein. I had so much fun during this episode. Also, all in all, I'm pumped for this girl to go to her sleepaway camp, to her friend's sleepaway camp, because that is so freaking cool. And she's going to have the best memories. And I hope that she is more social than I was and maybe gets laid at canteen, perhaps. But until then, I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening. Please continue to rate and review. To my parents who have listened to every episode, I really appreciate you. If anyone else is still listening, please, give me a holler back, all right? Thanks, you guys, for listening Not That Deep, and have a great rest of your week.